Welcome back, survivor. If you can hear this, it means you're still alive. This is Jack's Nightmares, and this is your next story. I arrive at the Fortress Road just after noon on Saturday, with a rental van full of costume trunks, a crate of archery gear, and a box of clay lamps I promised to demonstrate after dark. The reconstruction sits on a low ridge above a village, with a dry moat on the south side and a shallow stream on the north that feeds a small pond. The keep is stone, square, 2 floors usable, and a timber stair climbs to the great hall. The gatehouse is newer work, heavy oak doors with iron straps that were replaced 2 summers ago. I park near the service entrance and check in with the event coordinator, a quiet woman named Mara who runs her clipboard like a shield against chaos. I am here to give a short talk on castle kitchens and fire management in the 13th century. My name is Annika. I am 27. I specialize in castle restorations and living history interpretation. I put on the jacket with the group badge, carry the crate of lamps into the hall, and nod at the others setting up camp beds along the wall. Someone tests a kettle over the hearth. Someone else strings a longbow and checks brace height with calm hands. The air smells like charcoal and wool. Phones start buzzing with emergency push alerts about an infection cluster in a coastal city. I read one line about hospitals hitting capacity, and then the signal drops to 1 bar. A guy in a gambeson says it is probably a cyber attack. A woman in a linen dress says it is probably a drill. Mara says to keep setting up and follow site rules. I turn my phone to airplane mode to save battery and keep working, because that is the thing in front of me, and my head is good at the thing in front of me. By mid-afternoon, the village road gets clogged. We look down from the wall walk and see cars bumper to bumper, doors open, hazards flashing. A horse in our field pins its ears at the noise. 2 men from the group ride out to calm it, because the horse is part of the joust demonstration tomorrow. I do not like the look of the stalled line of cars. It feels wrong in a simple, practical way. Engines at idle. People walking past luggage they clearly cared about this morning, and now do not. Mara calls a meeting in the courtyard and asks for volunteers to help move supplies from the trucks to the inner ward, in case the council calls for a lockdown. No speech, just tasks. That is why I respect her. I join the chain and pass crates hand to hand. Water jugs, dried food, first aid kits, bow cases, a coil of rope, a roll of canvas that will become a windbreak across the east wall. We stack everything inside the great hall and shut the hall doors to keep the air stable while we plan. At about 4 in the afternoon, a car comes off the clogged road and pulls straight into our lower yard, mounts the verge, and smashes a stake fence. The driver does not react. He steers badly and stops when the engine dies. The door opens. A man climbs out with a soaked shirt and that stumbling gait that says, "Head injury." He calls for help in a raw voice and then he bites the first person who reaches him. No warning, no hesitation, teeth to forearm and a shake. We move on instinct. 2 people tackle him. A third pulls the bitten woman back and wraps her arm in a dish towel. She is pale and talking too fast. The man on the ground thrashes with a strength that does not match his frame. Someone tries to pin his arms. He snaps and snaps his jaw at whoever is nearest. It looks wrong. It is wrong. I grab a spear from a display rack because it is the closest thing with reach. I do not think about law or liability. I think about space. I set the butt to the flagstones and brace my foot. He lunges and impales himself in a messy, direct way that I will not describe. I hold the shaft and keep it vertical. He keeps grabbing at the wood with clumsy hands. Then he stops. I do not know how long it takes. We all stand very still, and the yard has the kind of quiet where small sounds cut through. A fly, a horse stamping, my breath steady by choice. Mara tells everyone to move inside the inner ward. We close the main oak doors and slide the iron bar across. The gatehouse has a smaller postern door, so she stations 2 people there to control it. The bitten woman sits on a bench and tells us she feels fine. She asks to go home. I look at the bite and see torn flesh and deep teeth marks. She sees my face and looks away. We test the radios. No signal. The landline in the office clicks and fails to connect. The coordinator reaches the estate owner once by short call, and he says the council told everyone to shelter in place and avoid main roads. After that, the line dies. We form roles. I take the hearth and kitchen with 2 students who follow instructions well. We build a steady fire in the main hall hearth with split oak from the store shed. We set a big pot for water. I talk through fuel stages in plain words because it keeps us focused. Kindling, small splits, larger pieces. Keep the drawer steady, dampers open. We will need heat for the night and boiled water for safety. The hall will hold heat if we manage the smoke. On the wall walk, the archers string bows and count arrows. Old practice quiet comes back into their bodies. A man named Giles lays out a row of arrow shafts and checks flex by hand. No fuss. He assigns 3 to the east, 3 to the west, and 2 on the south parapet over the dry moat. Longbows do not need batteries. Longbows need arms and a good stance, and people who will work a rhythm without drama. Dusk pulls in. With it, the first loud crowd sounds from the village road. It is not a protest sound. It is that chaotic mix that comes when a lot of people are out of options, when some are shouting, some are crying, and many are just moving fast and bumping into one another. Horses in the lower pasture go along the fence and whistle low. We bring them inside the outer yard and pen them with hay nets. We cannot spare them. We will need them to haul wood and maybe to go for supplies if that ever becomes possible. The bitten woman asks for water, and then she lies down on a folded cloak by the hall door. Her name is Leah. Her friend sits near her for a while, until the fire makes the hall warmer and the noise outside makes sitting too hard. The friend goes to help at the wall, and Leah sleeps. I watch the rise and fall of her breath while I stir the pot. I do not trust sleep in this situation. I do not say this. I check her color every few minutes, and I tell the 2 students to keep the ladle moving. Shortly after full dark, the first infected reach the moat side. We hear them before we see them. A scuff on stone, a thud on the gate. Not strong hits, test hits. One head appears in the torchlight beyond the arrow loop, glossy eyes reflecting fire. It stares, and then it rams its body into the wood. A bowstring snaps with that dry slap that fills my chest with a memory of competition, ranges, and calm days. The arrow drops the shape against the door. It gets back up. Another arrow lands, then a third. After the third, it stops. We test one more thing. Someone opens the murder hole and tips hot water. It splashes across the flags beneath the gatehouse. No scream, no words. Just bodies pushing in the glare and slipping on wet stone. Then more bodies behind them. The flow of pressure increases in waves. We hear the outer yard door splinter where the car hit earlier. We hear metal ringing in a way that is not a weapon. It is a shopping trolley bouncing off stone. That is what the world has become in one day. Mara snaps the plan clean and simple. Wall teams shoot on approach at knee and face level to break legs and sightlines. Ground team holds the inner yard with pikes through the narrow choke points. Postern door stays shut and watched. No hero moves. Anyone on a team has a partner who calls a halt if hands shake or eyes glass over. There is no room for pride. I feel the plan settle into the group like a map. Everyone adjusts to it fast, because it is work, and work is life right now. I take a moment in the pantry to count food with a small headlamp. We have sacks of barley, lentils, and flour for the weekend to feed about 40 people. We have dried fruits, nuts, and some smoked pork used for demonstrations. We have oil, vinegar, and salt. Not much fresh. Enough to last maybe 6 or 7 days if we cut the portions and supplement with forage or livestock. I mark a slate board with rations for morning. Porridge with a small handful of dried apple per person. Warm food keeps mind steady. Leah wakes. She does not speak. Her eyes move in a jerky way that makes the hair on my arms lift. She stands before I can stop her, fast and unsteady, and reaches for the student at the fire. I grab a bench and block her. Then I call for help in a voice that is louder than I am used to hearing from my own body. 2 from the wall team rush in, pin her arms, and we tie her with 2 belts to the pillar. Leah bites at the air. She tries to pull herself free. We cannot fix her. We cannot let her move around the hall. I do not look at her face. I look at the knots. They hold. I sit on the floor and drink water that tastes like iron and smoke. Sometime after midnight, the numbers outside double and then triple. Many are slow. A few move in short bursts that are too fast for comfort. We learn fast that the fast ones have coordination for a few seconds and then they crash into things. That matters. The archers adjust aim. The pike team keeps the butts braced in the cracks of the flags. A man named Henrik calls cadence so strikes do not tangle. He says thrust, pull, reset, and it becomes a metronome. No one sings. No one jokes. There is just that steady work sound of wood and breath and foot scuff. We rotate positions every 30 minutes. At each rotation, I hand small cups of hot water to the wall teams, because heat in hands keeps fingers working, and it is a signal that someone sees them. When the cup touches skin, shoulders drop a half inch, and faces focus again. The kitchen crew keeps the kettle moving all night. We also fill clay lamps and set them on the sills to mark steps. Firelight draws attention, but tripping on a stair is worse. Near dawn, a group of living people reaches the outer yard and pounds on the gate. We can see them through a slit, a family, 4 adults and a boy. Behind them, infected stumble through the mud. The family waves and shouts. The boy trips and scrambles back up. We cannot open the main door. That would be suicide. Mara runs to the postern and starts the drill we practiced. She unlocks. 2 of us go out with spears, 2 with shields, 1 with a halter rope. We form a V and move fast. The family gets inside the V. The infected hit the shields, and the pikes take them down at knee height. We back through the postern 1 step at a time, never turning. It is ugly and simple, and it works. We get the family in. We bar the postern. I count heads twice. We do not lose anyone on the run. The boy is quiet. He stares at our hands, and then at the floor. He holds a photograph in a plastic sleeve. His mother holds his shoulder and asks nothing. She sees what we are and what we are not. We are not a hotel. We are not a clinic. We are just a small stone complex with people who can work. We give them a spot by the fire and a bowl of hot porridge when it is ready. The boy eats in small, careful bites without looking up. After sunrise, we do a full assessment. The moat has bodies in it now, and that is a problem for water quality on the north side. We cannot fix that today. We can shift our draw point upstream and boil everything. We set a detail to dig a latrine in the far corner of the inner yard, with a screen of canvas for modesty. No one argues. Everyone understands what sickness will do in close quarters. We mark a wash bucket with soap. We set a no bare hands rule for wall duty and kitchen. Gloves only. We keep cuts covered and clean. I walk the wall with Giles and count arrows. We are down to a little more than half the shafts. The fletching on several is wet and loose from mist. We will need to strip and re-glue some later by the hearth. He shows me how to strip the feathers clean and save the good ones. He is calm and methodical, and I take comfort in the way he handles each step. It feels like shop class in school. Do this, then you get something that works. I tell him I can help with the glue batch after my next kitchen rotation. He nods and moves on. A woman from the new family asks if we saw a yellow van on the road below. She says her sister was in it. No one answers for a while. Then Henrik says he saw a yellow van pushed into the ditch by a truck and no one inside. He says it plain. She cries for a few minutes and then she goes to the woodpile and starts splitting kindling with clean technique. No fuss. I stand near and match her rhythm. Work is how grief moves without drowning us. We draft a supply list for a controlled sortie when the day is high and the infected density thins along the north field. We need salt, more grain, more medical supplies, leather thongs or cordage, nails, and coal from the estate store if it still exists. We need proper horse feed. We need a handcart. We need a lot. We mark 2 horses for the run and keep them watered and rested. We choose 3 riders plus 1 runner who knows the village back lanes. I want to go. Mara says I am more valuable on fire and water and food. It stings, but she is right. I stay. Leah is still alive at mid-morning. She strains against the belts. Her eyes track motion with that same jerky pattern, and there is a smell from the wound that makes the student at the hearth swallow hard. We cannot untie her. We cannot move her. A man from her friend group comes and sits across the hall, just outside reach, and talks to her in a low voice about a hike they took last summer. It is not for her. It is for him. There is no language for this. The sortie leaves at noon. The postern opens. The team moves out low and quick along the old sheep track that runs behind the hedgerow. We tie small bells to the horses' tack because we want a friendly sound when they return. I stand at the arrow loop and watch until they are small shapes. Then I go back to the hearth. I grind barley with a hand quern while the student feeds the fire. The sound of stone on grain is steady. The hall air is warm and thick. The clay lamps give soft light that does not sting the eyes. I could fall asleep standing up, but I will not do that. The infected do not stop. They move along the walls all day, pressing hands to stone, shuffling, reaching through slits, and swaying in that strange way that looks like a person trying to hear a distant sound. Some have dried blood on faces. Some are clean. Some wear work boots and paint-splattered trousers. A few have vests like security staff. The fast ones sprint and hit the wall, bounce off, try again, and then walk in circles until they forget what they were doing. It is messy and relentless. We try a simple trap at the south choke point. We lay a mat of green branches over a shallow pit and weight the edge with 2 paving stones. When 3 infected push into the choke together, the first goes into the hole and jams there. The second trips. The third falls on top and the pike team finishes them fast with low thrusts. It is not elegant. It reduces strain on the door. We reset the mat and do it again later. The trap works until the bodies pile high enough to make it useless. Then we drag the heap aside with hooked poles and start again. I add shovel handles and cord to my next supply list. At 2 in the afternoon, the sortie's bell sound returns over the hedgerow. The team comes back at a slow walk. The horses are lathered. The runner holds a sack over one shoulder and a roll of bandages in the other hand. The sacks spill nails and packets of salt, a few pharmacy items, a coil of wire and a bag of oats. We help unload and water the horses. We do not ask too many questions in the yard. We go inside. Then the lead rider sits with Mara and gives the facts. The village is a mess. The grocery was stripped and the back door broken. The estate storehouse is open and tipped. The farm shed on the lane still has coal, and we can haul it with a cart if we can get the cart out of a tangle of fencing. Several bodies in the road, few living, many infected. He had to leave a man who begged to be taken. The man had a bite on his neck. The rider looks at the table, then at nothing, then at the table again. We pause the work for 5 minutes. We sit on the floor, lean against walls, and drink water. It tastes like smoke and metal and somehow clean. I write a new schedule board on the slate. Fire and water. Me and the 2 students, shifts of 2 hours. Wall teams, 4 up, 4 down, half-hour rotations, 1 reserve floating. Horse care, 2 regulars, 1 extra at feed times. Gate guard, 2 at all times. Med station, 1, even if the station is only a table with gauze and boiled tools. Sanitation, everyone cleans the latrine after use, no exceptions. We hold a simple oath in the courtyard. Not drama, just words to set rules. No one opens a door alone. No one leaves the inner ward without permission. No one hides a bite. If you are bitten, you are restrained to protect the rest. We will feed you, water you, sit with you, and speak to you. We will not let you hurt anyone. If you try to escape restraint, we will stop you with force. Heads nod, eyes steady, a few tears. It is done. Late afternoon brings a steady drizzle that makes the wall stones slick. We sand the treads with a handful of grit to keep our footing. The drizzle dampens torch heads. We set lanterns in glass on the windward side and move torches under the arch. The infected keep pressing. At one point, a cluster pulls at a loose stone under the parapet, and the wall team has to brace it with a timber shore until we can fix it with mortar. We add lime to the list and then laugh because there is no lime kiln in reach. Fine. We will pin the stone with iron spikes and plugs of oak. I mark it for morning. In the hall, I make pottage with lentils, barley, and a small piece of the smoked pork. The smell is real food in a way that reaches into the hands that hold the bowls. People eat with focus. They do not talk much during the first few bites. After that, Someone tells a story about a tour in a Welsh castle where a bat landed on a guide's hat, and the guide never noticed. Someone else mentions a Roman recipe for fish sauce that no one wants to try. The sound of small laughter fills cracks in the air and then fades. We stack bowls and wash them with a small amount of hot water and ash, then rinse with boiled water, then set them to dry by the coals. Near evening, Leah stops moving. Her chest does not rise. The man who sat with her all day folds his hands and backs away and tells me to do what we must. We set a rope across the hall and to the pillar, then we loosen the belts and lay her straight. We wait. 10 minutes pass, then 20. Then she gasps and twists and snaps at the air with that fast animal motion that has nothing to do with Leah. We do what we swore we would. 2 hold the limbs. 1 uses a spear. It is fast and clean and awful. We wrap her in a sheet and carry her to the small chapel room and set her there with a candle. The man sits with her for an hour and no one disturbs him. Night 2 is worse. The infected numbers climb. The fast ones come in pairs and vanish under the parapet where we cannot shoot. We hear them claw the stone. We drop rocks through the murder hole and listen for the thud. I work the hearth until my eyes blur. I stand, step away, and do a slow lap of the hall to reset my head. I check on the boy. He sleeps with his head on his mother's lap. She stares at the door as if it might move. I crouch and say we will hold. It is not a promise. It is an aim. She nods and blinks once, and that is all. At some point after midnight, a scream cuts across the yard. It is a short scream that ends in a wet crunch. We rush to the parapet and see that a man climbed the outer wall on the rubble pile left by the car and drew 3 infected with him. He does not get up. The infected pull at his jacket and then lose interest and wander off. We resolve to clear that rubble in the morning. It is a ladder we did not invite. The problem is that the ladder ends in open ground full of bodies, and we cannot spare a team for long. We will figure it out. We have to. I take a bow at last light and join the wall team for 1 hour because Giles insists I should know the rhythm in case he is down. He fits me with a lighter draw and sets my feet. We pick targets that threaten ladders or doors. I do not take hero shots. I break knees and wrists. A fast one charges, and I wait and loose and miss and then loose again, and the arrow cuts through the cheek and pins it to the gate for a second. Henrik finishes it with a pike from the slot. It is not pretty. It works. I give the bow back and return to the hearth. Day 3 begins with a small mercy. The drizzle clears, and a cold wind dries the walls and the moat edge. We burn the pile of soiled cloths in a shallow pit and shovel sand over the coals. We haul more water. The horses stand with heads low and ears flicking at the flies. One has a rubbed spot under the saddle blanket. We pad it with a folded cloth and a strip of felt. Small care keeps assets alive. I run my hand down each leg and check for heat. None. Good. I lead a group to the outer yard under cover of shields to clear the rubble ladder. We rope each shield to the next so we can push as a unit. The infected slam into the wood and slide off. We use hooked poles to pull loose stones off the pile and let them tumble into the moat. We do this for an hour. It changes the terrain just enough that climbing is hard again. When we pull back in through the postern, my arms shake. I sit on the floor in the passage and take 10 breaths. I drink water. Then I get up because the kettle needs tending. Mara gathers us and says a caravan might try for us at noon. The sortie team found a note pinned to a farmhouse door that said a group from the next town is heading this way with a wagon, 2 horses, and a small flock of sheep. If they make it, we will take them in and take the animals. If they do not, we will search the road for what they drop. It is a hard way to talk about human life. It is also the way we survive. No one flinches. Around 11, we hear bells that are not ours. The sound is thin and panicked. We go to the parapet and see the wagon on the road with bodies pressing hard from the fields. The wagon tips at the ditch. A woman runs with a rope, pulling a sheep that refuses to move. A man swings a shovel as if it is a sword. The infected pour in from the hedges. We open the postern. We send the V formation again, this time with 2 extra pikes. I cannot watch from the wall. I go to the yard with the spare rope and a grain sack. When the gate opens, I stand behind the line and clear space. We pull 3 people in, 2 sheep, and 1 crate of tools. One horse breaks free and bolts. One person does not make it. The woman with the rope drags her child across the threshold and then collapses on the stones. We bar the postern and stand close together without speaking for a full minute, because the noise outside presses back into the passage like a tide. We pen the sheep and check them for wounds. Clean, good. We feed them hay and a little grain and give them water. I hate that I am relieved. The mother sits with her child and does not move for a long time. When she stands, her face is empty of everything except the next task. She asks where to help. I put her on grain grinding because it is heavy and steady and makes sense. She sets the child to peel onions and sort lentils by size. The child does the job with a seriousness that hurts to watch. As the day goes on, we improve our defenses. We string a net of wire and rope across the inside of the gate as a secondary check in case the main door fails. We set planks along the inner yard as a raised path so we can move when the ground gets muddy. We drive iron spikes into the wall gap we shored and wedge in oak plugs, then cut them flush. We lay planks across the murder hole to form a quick platform for dropping stones and water. We assign 2 to collect stones from the collapsed garden wall in sacks. Every small pre-planned move today is one less frantic move tonight. I write simple instructions on scraps of cardboard and tack them near each station so anyone can step in. How to tend the fire without smoke, how to draw water without slipping, how to check the horse's legs, how to clean a cut with boiled water and a cloth. No one is precious about it. We are all students now. We are all instructors now. At dusk, a new problem shows. A cluster of infected figures out that the drainage culvert under the north bank is a path. 2 crawl into it and start to push through. We hear scraping in the pipe and a dull knock under the yard. This is how it will go. Not a single grand attack. Just dozens of small variables stacking until something breaks. I grab a long iron bar from the blacksmith demo bench and a hammer. Henrik pries up the culvert grate. We slide the bar into the pipe and shove. The first body jams. The second shoves from behind. We keep pushing. It moves an inch. We need a block. We need a plug. Giles runs in with 2 sacks of gravel. We pour them into the pipe around the bodies and tamp with the bar. The noise inside the pipe is horrible. We pour a 3rd sack and the sound dulls. Then quiet. We roll a stone over the grate and wedge it with smaller stones. It will hold for a day or 2. We mark it red on the chalk map of the yard. We will pour lime in there if we find any. If not, we will pour sand and oil. If that fails, we will collapse the entrance with a small wall. Step by step. The night comes down hard. Torches burn along the wall. The air smells like pitch and rain. I check the kitchen one last time, bank the fire, and lay 2 big logs for a slow burn. I leave the pot filled with fresh water on the hearth stones, not hanging, so anyone can slide it onto the hook without lifting. I check the clay lamps, trim 2 wicks, and set them near the stairheads. Small light prevents broken ankles. It also draws eyes, but that is a trade we accept. I sit on the steps of the hall and wrap my cloak tight. The boy from the first family sits beside me. He shows me the photograph in the plastic sleeve. 2 women and the boy at a fairground. He points to one woman and says, "Aunt." He says she used to take him on the small cars that go in circles. He does not smile. He does not cry. He just states facts the way I state fuel sizes. I tell him my father taught me to split wood by sound, and that I still miss that sound when I get it wrong. He nods as if this is a useful fact to store for later. Maybe it is. Sometime after midnight, a different sound rises from the road. A long, low horn, then another, then a rhythmic clank. We get to the wall and see a farm tractor dragging a steel gate as a plow through a herd of infected. 2 figures ride the tractor. One stands and swings a chain. The other drives with both hands. They are not coming to us. They are cutting a lane to a different farm. We watch and do not signal because light will pull more infected on them. The tractor makes it to the lane and vanishes behind the hedges. The sound fades. A small, hard proof that movement is still possible if you think sideways. Day 4 is rain and fog. The archers cannot see more than 20 yards, so we keep our shots for shapes that reach the gate. The infected press less, maybe because sightlines are poor. We use the pause to reorganize. We move sleeping rolls to the gallery above the hall to keep the floor open. We rig a hoist with a block and tackle over the kitchen to lift water barrels. We set up a drying rack for wet clothing. We write a new duty rotation to keep the same people from burning out. Mara finally lies down for 1 hour and does not move except to breathe. Giles sits with the bowstrings and re-waxes them by the fire. I hate the fog because it cuts the world into a tiny box and fills the edges with threat. I do not say that out loud. I keep my hands busy. Around noon, a small group appears at the edge of the fog in the outer yard. 3 adults and a teen with a backpack. They move in a coordinated way, call to us with clear voices, and keep their hands visible. They say they are from a reenactment group 2 counties over, and they have a wagon with hand tools and dried food. They want in. They have no bites. They allow a search at the postern. We bring them through in pairs. They are what they say. One is a farrier with hands like stone. One is a nurse. The teen knows knots and net mending. We give them water and a job. I watch tension leave people's shoulders in a way that is almost visible. New hands change the math. The nurse checks our small med table and improves it by half with the same items we already have. He boils the instruments in a rolling boil for 3 minutes instead of 1. He lays out a triage sheet on cardboard with pencil marks that make sense to everyone who glances at it. He checks Leah's friend's arm where the bite happened. The friend did not get bitten, only bruised in the early chaos. The nurse cleans the bruises, wraps the wrist in a proper bandage, and tells him to rest that hand for 1 day. It is small, but it feels like order. We use the farrier's strength to drive iron stakes deeper at the gate and to bend 2 rods into hooks for our body drag poles. He hums an old song while he works, and his hammer swings in a steady arc that calms me. The teen sits by me and makes cordage from split willow while we wait for the kettle to boil. He says his mother taught him to do this in a scout camp. He says he likes it because it takes noise out of his head. I understand that completely. By evening, the fog lifts. The infected surge again, as if the world reminded them we exist. We handle them. The rhythm holds. Thrust, pull, reset. Loose, knock, loose, drop, shout, brace. A fast one gets through the first line and grabs a pike shaft. The man holding it steps forward instead of back, which jams the creature into the wall and pins it. Henrik finishes it with a short spear to the base of the skull. No cheering, just a small nod and a reset. The work continues. That night, I cannot sleep. I make a circuit of the hall with my small lamp and check each face. Some twitch, some frown. Some sleep with open mouths and soft snores. I sit by the door and write a list on a scrap of cardboard. Salt, vinegar, soap, needles, thread, wire, nails, coal, barley, oats, bandages, lantern oil, sand for the stairs. I put the list in my pocket and feel the edges with my thumb until my mind quiets. Then I sleep sitting up with my head against the door. Day 5 breaks with sun. It turns the yard into a steam bath, and the smell lifts from everything. We set clothes on the line, and the horses roll in the dust and blow. We take the opportunity to do a controlled burn of the pile beyond the moat, working in teams with long poles and a rope line in case someone slips. The fire burns slow and thick. We stand upwind and drink water and say little. When it is done, the ground is black and flat. The moat looks clear enough to wade if we had to, which is not a reassuring thought. In the afternoon, the farrier shows me a way to make small caltrops from cut lengths of iron rod. He holds one piece with tongs, heats it in a small charcoal brazier, and bends it until 3 points align to stand proud. We set them in clusters outside the postern and in the choke at the south corner. That slows the fast ones and makes them stumble into the pike line. I wish for proper fencing pliers and a welder. I accept what we have. The medieval solutions are not romantic here. They are just tools that fit the limits. Late day, we try a controlled forage. 2 riders and 1 runner take the old lane to a farm we think is empty. They come back with a cart of root vegetables, a box of mason jars, and a bag of flour. The runner has a cut on his forearm from a loose nail, clean edges, no bite. The nurse washes it with boiled water, checks for debris, and closes it with 2 butterfly strips. The runner looks embarrassed. He says he should have been more careful. The nurse says care is a habit, not a mood, and wraps the arm with gauze. He sets the runner on light duty for the evening and no one argues. We cook a thicker stew with the root vegetables and a few bay leaves from the kitchen garden. The smell goes through the hall and out the door like a signal. We eat earlier than usual. People relax in small ways. Someone tunes a fiddle and plays a slow tune. It is not a performance. It is a test of the strings. It is the best sound I have heard in days. I look at the boy and see his eyes close and open in a slow cycle and his shoulder lean into his mother's side. The child is still in there under the shock. That is something to protect. Night 5 brings a push at the gate that tests the iron bar. It bends a little. We reset it and wedge an oak beam under it. The new brace makes the door feel solid again in the hands. At one point, the rope net inside the door catches a wrist and holds it like a snare until the pike team can end it. The net earns its place in 1 minute. We tie 2 more along the inner wall. Day 6, we talk about food longer term. The sheep cannot be pets. They are food and fiber. We can milk the ewe if she is calm. We can spin the wool later. We can breed if we find a ram. We talk through this in plain language without pretending it is not brutal. We also plan a small garden inside the inner ward against the south wall, where the soil is decent and runoff is good. It will not feed us for months, but projects matter. Work grows discipline. Discipline keeps minds from sliding into useless fear. I start a sourdough culture with flour and clean water in a clay pot. I put it by the warm part of the hearth and mark the pot with a charcoal X so no one uses it by mistake. I explain to the student how to feed it and watch for bubbles and smell. He nods and repeats the steps. He touches the rim of the pot with care. He treats it like a living thing, which it is. In this hall, that feels right. Life that we can name and guide. We test the horses on a heavier haul, 2 barrels of water across the courtyard on a sled made from an old door. The animals pull with steady effort. The sled drags smooth once it moves. We add 2 cross slats to keep the barrels from rolling. A simple sled might save us 1,000 steps a day. I like machines that are this honest. Push here, it moves there. No noise except wood on stone. Midday, a man approaches the wall with hands up. He calls out in a clear voice. He says he is alone and unarmed and asks for water. He looks thin. He wears a work jacket with a company patch and a cut on his cheek. We can see him well. No infected near him. Mara goes to the postern with the gate team. They keep the door barred and pass a clay jug through the slit. He drinks, hands it back, and asks to come in. We do not open. We cannot take everyone. He nods. He asks for a piece of bread. I bring a small loaf and pass it through. He says, "Thank you," very steady. He walks back to the hedgerow and follows it toward the lane. I grip the bars and tell myself this is not a moral test. It is a numbers problem and a disease problem and a security problem. Still, it cuts. I write his jacket patch name on the slate under people we saw because it feels wrong not to. In the afternoon, we have our first real fight inside the group. A man from the archers accuses a rider of taking extra food. The rider denies it. Voices rise, hands clench. I step between them and point to the slate with the ration marks. The lines are clear. No extra. The archer is hungry and angry and the target was the closest person. He breathes hard and then nods once. He says sorry. The rider grunts. I hand them both cups of hot water and make them sit on the same bench for 5 minutes without speaking. It is petty and it works. Later, they fix a broken fletching together without being told. We trap 2 pigeons with a net from the teens' knotwork and a handful of oats. We keep them for breeding in a small pen by the warm wall. Pigeons mean meat, manure for the garden, and a project for the child. He stands watch by the pen and writes notes on a scrap of paper about how much they eat and when they move. He takes it very seriously. The mother smiles in a tired way that lights her face for a second. That night, we try a watch rotation that gives everyone at least 4 hours sleep. We pair new arrivals with old hands. We set a quiet rule. No conversations longer than 2 minutes on the wall. No stories, no debates. Call what you see. Rotate. The quiet changes the feel of the night. The work becomes more precise. The noise outside is still there. but it does not set the tone. We do. Day 7. Early, a helicopter passes high and to the north. The sound is unmistakable. We run to the wall and look up. It does not circle. It does not signal. It flies straight and fades into the distance. We stand in a line and watch the sky for a long minute for nothing. Then we go back to work. The world is larger than our yard. That is both relief and ache. Mara and I review the week's plan at the hall table. We need a more permanent fix for the culvert. We need a stronger inner gate brace. We need a scouting chart with times and routes so we do not repeat patterns. We need to set up a signal kite or panel on the keep roof for friendlies at a distance. We need to teach 3 more people to manage the hearth so I can leave it for longer runs. We write names beside each task. We do not write hopes. We write actions. At midday, a small herd of infected pushes through the south hedgerow with a speed that says something spooked them from behind. We brace for a gate hit. It does not come. The herd veers and smashes into our new caltrops. Feet bleed, ankles twist, bodies go down. The pike team moves in and finishes it with quick, practiced thrusts. We drag the pile with hooks to the burn pit and set a low fire and shovel sand over it when it is done. The smell is terrible. We work through it with cloth masks soaked in vinegar. I am grateful to the nurse for suggesting that trick. It reduces the sting. Work continues. Late afternoon, the farrier shows us a better brace for the inner gate. He uses 2 wedges and a center post anchored to the floor with pins. When pressure hits the door, the post bites into the pins and locks. We test it with 6 of us pushing. It holds. He nods once and goes to feed the horses. The man speaks through his hands. I respect that. That evening, during the last light, I walk the keep roof alone for 5 minutes. The land spreads out in greens and browns, and the soft glow of village rooftops without power. Smoke rises in thin columns from 3 places. No movement on the main road. The pond reflects the sky, broken by a duck that somehow still lives here. The sound of the yard below reaches me in small packets. A laugh, a clank, a snort from a horse. The sharpened edges of the week soften for a moment. This is still a place. We are still people. The work we do is not a performance anymore. It is a line between chaos and a small, stubborn order. When I come down, I check the sourdough. Bubbles dot the surface. It smells sharp and alive. I feed it with a small handful of flour and water and stir until it is smooth. I hand the pot to the student, and he sets it in the warm spot with the care of a person holding a sleeping child. We will bake tomorrow if we can spare the fuel. Bread has weight in the hand that turns fear into something you can bite. That matters. Before sleep, I sit at the long table and write these notes on scraps of cardboard bound with leather thong. I list what we did right and what we must fix. I write names. I write small victories so we can read them later when the night is heavy. We held the gate on night 1. We rescued the family and the caravan. We sealed the culvert. We set a latrine. We kept the horses sound. We made a sled. We trapped pigeons. We fed everyone hot food every day. We did not lose anyone inside after Leah. And we honored her. When I finish the list, my hands stop shaking. The pen leaves a small ink blot on the corner. I do not wipe it. I close the packet and tuck it into a clay jar with a lid. If someone finds this later, I want it to feel like a record, not a story. I am tired. I am clear. We are not heroes. We are workers in a hard place. We are using old tools because old tools do not quit when the power dies. The castle is not magic. It is stone and wood and iron and hands that refuse to let go of the next task. Tomorrow we fix the wall stone for real. Tomorrow we bake. Tomorrow we send 2 riders east at first light to look for a farm with seed. Tomorrow we give the child a real job on the pigeon pen and teach him how to tie a clove hitch. Tomorrow we keep the fire steady. We keep the water clean. We keep the doors braced. We do not lie to each other. That is the whole plan. That is enough to carry into another day.